Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. You could be in Dubai, you could be in New York, you could be in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, but wherever you are, thank you for tuning in today to the Culture Talks podcast. And here we got a legend. Today we got a legend. I tell y'all every week I'm coming back with another guest next week, and I haven't let y'all down yet. So here we are with man. Honestly, I'm blessed to be able to interview this gentleman. I grew up listening to his voice on the radio from like a young age. Shoot, let me think about it. Like, shit, since I was at least like 8, 9 years old. So it's been a minute. Like this is a voice, a face that represents Kansas City well. Casey's favorite son, aka 50% of the Shay and Shyne show, aka the Hot 103 Jamz legend, the hit break kid, Brian B Shynin.
Wow.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, my guy. I know I did my little introduction for you, but go ahead.
Bro, there's no way I can follow it up. First off, you're extremely complimentary and you're very mean because you a grown ass man talking about you've been listening to me since you was 8. I'm like, come on, dog. I just turned 35 not even a month ago. So no, but for real, I'm flattered. Those are some kind words. I just hope I can live up to them. And of course, like Rich say, KC is the town.
Facts. And funny thing about Rich is I never knew that specific term, was essentially, popularized by Rich. But all my life growing up, and then especially as social media starts to pop out, like I'll be on the story every time I come back, move back into the city from LA or San Diego. I'm like, I'm back in the town, and I'm like, bro, nobody's gonna know what the town is, but I'm black, but the folks that need to know gonna know.
Oh yeah, if you don't know it by the time you land, by the time you get to 12th Street, you gonna know.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you, my brother, for tapping in today. I'm excited to talk with you, and let's jump right in. So, I want to talk to you a little bit about where you grew up. I know you're originally from Kansas City, but what part of town did you grow up in? And, what was special about that experience growing up where you grew up?
Well, I didn't grow up in one specific hood. I grew up a lot of places. So I'll run down the timeline for you. From when I was born until I was about 9 or 10, I lived in Village Green, which is the complex off of Paseo on 45th and Paseo, and 4503 Plymouth Court. That was my first address. 921-3288. That was my first phone number at that house. So grew up right there, right by Paseo High School. Right by Tony's Liquors was right there on Paseo, and the old Gates that was on the other side of Paseo. So y'all don't know nothing about that, because the one that's there now is the new one they built. I don't even think that thing is 10 years. Maybe it is 10 years old. I don't know. But anywho, that's where I originally grew up at. Then I had to move with my daddy. And at first, this is going to be a long list.
Hey, I'm ready.
I moved in my daddy, and let's see, this is January 95. I was in the 4th grade, and we was in Chestnut Hill, which is off of 87th and Holmes. Moved to my grandma Cheryl's house on 67th and Terrace, right by Southeast. Then we moved out of there in like February of 96, and then we moved to 83rd and Campbell. Then we moved every year, for real. I went to like 6, 7 different schools in the Kansas City Public School District.
And tell me real quick before you, well, I can ask you at the end, or matter of fact, finish the timeline and I'll ask you the question because it'll still apply.
I just want everybody to know, like, I grew up everywhere. In Kansas City.
You really from the town, literally.
Oh yeah, all day. Let's see. After 83rd and Campbell, in 97, we moved to 71st and Wayne, which is right there again by that southeast area, in between Truce and Paseo. Then we moved from there in 98. We moved to Brittany Point Apartments, which is off of 81st and Holmes, right by Paul Robeson, which I had to go to. And from there, and it don't stop, bro. In 2000 or 99, in 99, like September or October 99, I think, we moved to 59th and Spruce. And then a tragedy happened over there on 59th and Spruce. I don't know if y'all remember, but Precious Doe, it was a young girl. She was like 4 or 5 years old. And they found her remains over in a wooded area, which was literally 1 block over from Spruce. Kensington is right off of Spruce, and they found her off Kensington in the woods. So we got up out of there, and then I moved back with my mama. But by that time, my mother had moved somewhere else. And yeah, so I've literally moved every year in school up until my sophomore year of high school.
And you ran all up and down the numbers, 80, 70,
Well,
60.
we didn't never live north of we never lived north of like, you know, 45th or 44. But I made up for that later on when I went to Northeast. So I'm well rounded when it come to Kansas City.
And yeah, so the question I was gonna ask about that is like, as a young cat, like was that challenging? You know, switching schools. A lot of times people talk about the difficulty of, you know, who knows? You obviously seem like an outgoing individual being on on air for the past, you know, 15 years. But, you know, how were you as a child? Were you outgoing? Were you talking to people, or was it challenging to, you know, meet and interact and integrate into new school systems and new friend groups? What was that experience like for you?
Man, that's a good question. My initials are BAB. And they flipped that to Badass Brian. So I was a very bad kid, for real. Like from the single digits, like from when I was born to about when I was 9, when I had to move with my daddy. And I'll tell you the story on that. This little boy, I was at Volker Elementary School. And this was like, January 95 or December 94. This little boy, he said something about my mama. And I guess I had an attitude that day or something. So I pushed him down the stairs. But yeah, I don't play about my mama. When it was wrong, you know.
But again, you don't play about your mama.
Nah, I don't. But but the boy had a heart condition or something. So I didn't feel bad about it at the time. You talked about my mama. So I got suspended for 3 days at Volker, and that's when my life really changed at that point. And I had to move in with my daddy. So but to answer your question, to go more in depth about that, I was bad and I was emotional. I talked a lot, had a smart mouth. But I was always loving. I was always loyal. I was a hard worker. If something needed to be done, I'd do it. But I was a bad kid. And as far as moving all the time, I think I use that as a benefit, because I got to know so many people, and I remember so many people from all of the different schools that I went to. Even to this day, like this guy named Brian Pickens. His name is like B Got It 5100 on Twitter or whatever. But I knew him ever since I was in the 4th grade, and we went to Volker. And because of that relationship, like I just still know him to this day. Like we're not like best, you know, brothers or nothing, but he's a good friend though. I like it. He's been solid ever since I know him. So that's just one relationship out of hundreds that I've made, you know, throughout my journey in elementary school and moving around and going to different neighborhoods and being familiar or where to drive. Like I don't need a map when I'm in Kansas City. If you tell me, you know, wherever is on, you know, it's over there on 78th and Euclid, I can get there, you know.
You got
quickly.
That internal Siri.
Exactly. You know, but I was, you know, as a kid, I was, you know, I was more emotional. I was, you know, a little outspoken. But when I moved in with my daddy, though, all of that simmered down. Everything. Like I really was missing his guidance when I wasn't living with him. It was just my mama and my older brother and me. And then, and my mama's white, so I moved with my daddy. Of course, he was black, and my second mother, who I credit a lot of how I am culturally and how I am as a man to her, because if it wasn't, and she's my stepmother. But she was more than a stepmother. I think that term wasn't, it didn't do her justice at all. She meant way more than that to me. She was my second mama. So, you know, that move really changed my life, and it changed me as a person for the better.
And that's powerful, in regards to, when children are growing up and they're going through their little phase of whatever you want to call it, you can call it an attitude, you can call it anger issues, whatever it is, there's always a root cause, in my opinion. There's always a root, always something that's missing, always something that they're wanting to connect with. And you sharing that there just, speaks to that fact. And also, that reminds me of my siblings. Like I have, there's like two siblings who are full siblings, and then like I got seven others who are like half, like same mama but different dad.
Right.
And it's always funny when people are like, so it's your half brother, it's your half sister. I'm like, nah, that doesn't do it justice. Like I grew up with these people, like this is my family, this is like my kin. This isn't just somebody who just came into my life randomly. This isn't just somebody who was there in the home. This is somebody I connected with, that I bonded with, that helped me grow, that helped me progress. So those words feel like it takes away. So I feel you on that.
Man, look, man, we don't operate like that. Man. Me and my older brother, we got the same mother and father, but my little brother, he has a different mother. His mama, my second mama, is one of the reasons why we so close. But me and my little brother, we ain't never said step, we ain't never said half, we ain't never said none of that. That is my brother. We got the same, not 100% DNA and blood, but that's my brother, and I will die over him.
Straight up. And that kind of leads into the question, my next question. It was going to be, if you had any siblings, how many? And then, you can touch on all of them or just one, but who influenced you a lot growing up?
Well, I have one older brother. I got a little sister and a little brother. And I love all my siblings to death, but by far, my older brother is my number one influence in my life. And I speak to him a lot. I speak about my older brother a lot because, man, John, his name is John, and he's gone through a tremendous amount of adversity in his life. So the story on John, my mama and my daddy, they actually met in college. Now, my mama's from a suburb of Philadelphia. It's called Bluebell, Pennsylvania. And how can I say this? Because I don't know anybody in my mama's family except my mama. And, we'll get to that in a second. I like to keep it 100. I like to be blunt. And her mother was racist from what I know, from what my daddy told me, from what my mother says. And her father wasn't like that. But, if you marry a racist, then, marrying somebody and loving somebody is a political statement in and of itself, but that's a whole different conversation. So my mama wanted to get away from all that. She wanted to get away from her mother. They didn't have a good relationship. My mama and her daddy had a good relationship, but not the mother. So my mama flew all the way from Bluebell, Pennsylvania, and she went to college in Tarkio, Missouri. And to this day, I don't know where Tarkio is. I used to think it was Tokyo when I was a kid, but it's north of Maryville, and that's like almost in Nebraska or something. Because I went to college at Northwest Missouri State, which is in Maryville, so I'm kind of familiar with that. But they met there, and they got pregnant, or my mama got pregnant. And what happened was, now we're talking about 1975. So they expelled my daddy from college, and they almost didn't let my mama graduate because my mom was going to graduate like that semester. So to tell you what those times were like, it was still segregated for the most part, So my daddy, he went to college somewhere else because they expelled him. But my mother, she ended up getting her degree and she graduated, and she had my older brother, John. So when my mama had him, her parents put her in an unwed mother's home, and they put my older brother in a foster home for 2 years. So for the first 2 years of his life, my older brother, he didn't know my parents. My mama had to work and had to show stability that she could take care of my older brother. But until she could do that, she couldn't get him. I think she could visit him, but she couldn't have custody of him. So eventually my mama got stable. She got my brother, And here they are in Kansas City. And my brother turns 12. And my brother's 10 years older than me. I was born in 85. So my brother turns 12. And then on March 9th of 1988, he had cancer. He had a brain tumor. And it really affected him for the rest of his life. It really changed his course on what his life was supposed to be. So, you know, I got to live through all that. I know what he went through from my perspective. I saw what he went through, and I see what he goes through still to this day. My brother he's not supposed to be here. But God made a way for him to be here. And I think one of the reasons why God kept him here is for my benefit, because he inspired me every day. I thought about my brother. I think about how much worse things could be. And I'm blessed to be able to say that I'm fine. I've never had to go through what he went through. So I try to use that as a motivational factor to try to be the best that I can, to try to be better than what I think I can be as far as what I'm doing. And then, you know, John, he really molded me musically. You know, he's the one that really got me to fall in love with music by playing the Chronic. When I was 8 years old, I knew the whole Chronic album. I knew the Doggy Style album from Snoop. You know, thank God for my mama keeping the cable on too, because that really played a factor in me culturally too, and knowing a lot of things that I really wasn't supposed to know about as a kid. But it was all to the good. It was all for a greater good, I should say. But my number one influence is definitely my older brother. My little brother Jared, he I really tried to set a good example for him. That was really one of my number one things that I wanted to do. I taught Jared, my little brother Jared, I taught him how to do math and stuff when he was like 2 or 3 years old. And by the time he had got to preschool and kindergarten, he was already, 10 steps ahead of the other kids. And for that, Jared is the smartest one out of all of us. Without a question, he's the smartest. And I like to call him Michael Corleone, because he was the next coming. Like, and our family is set up like that. Like, as far as the Godfather kids, not like identical, but similar. It's 3 brothers and 1 sister. And my daddy, he called me Sonny. He called my older brother John Fredo, simply because because he was disloyal. If you know about the Godfather, Fredo was the disloyal one, but he was a little timid. So, and me and Jared are way more aggressive than John. And then, of course, they had a sister, which is my little sister. And that's an interesting story of itself that you could do a whole podcast over, because I didn't meet my sister until 2004.
Wow.
So
and that's like your first year of college, right?
That was my second year. It was my second year of college. But I'll get into that. So me and my sister, we're 2 months and 10 days apart. She was born on October 28th, 1985, and I was born on August 18th, 1985. So the story is, of course, my father, he was out there getting it. My daddy and my mama was never married. So my daddy was just out, being a 30-year-old man, getting it out, going out and doing what he do. So he was the side dude in a relationship, and he got the lady pregnant. And I think by the time they found it, I don't think she could get an abortion or anything like that. Not that I'm advocating for that. I'm just telling the story. Because if she had done that, then the husband would have knew. But her and the husband were separated. So she was out messing around, with my daddy. So they get pregnant with my sister. And it was nothing my daddy could do, because he's not married to this lady. So my daddy wrote a letter and he gave it to the foster home where my sister was born, because he knew that, he couldn't keep her, he couldn't get her. So he wanted to do something to preserve the relationship. So he gave her the letter, They gave the family the letter, and then fast forward to 2003 when my sister turned 18. Uh, she got a chance to read the letter because they said she couldn't read it until she was an adult, till she turned 18. So she read the letter, and then like less than a year later, and it was like October or September of 2004, my daddy gave me a call. He said, well, they found your sister, or your sister found us. And because my daddy, it was funny because he would always make little jokes and little tidbits like, you know, if a little girl come at the door, you better answer it, ha, 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 ha. And we'll all laugh and stuff like, ha, ha, right. Yeah, all right, yeah, that's cool. Right. But he called and she found us. And the first conversation we had, we talked for 8 hours straight.
Damn.
No stopping. It was from like 12 and I had an 8 o'clock class to go to. So I stayed up all night and I talked to her because I was so excited about like, bruh, we got a sister. What?
Straight up, right. And at that specific age in life too, it's a special time where you guys are transitioning out of, you know, being a teenager, and there's a lot like that you just experienced. You just came out of like that growth period of becoming, you know, that line towards adulthood.
Yeah.
In college life, so I bet you there was just crazy amount of things to talk about.
It was crazy, bro. It was crazy. Mind blowing.
Man.
But she's a blessing, and I'm so glad we were able to connect, and we're close. You know, it's like we never were apart. And I love her to death. She's my angel.
That's powerful. That's powerful. First off, I want to just say shout out to the whole family that you just mentioned, because it's important to realize, you know, and just be grateful for family and the role that each individual plays in our path to wherever we end up. So first off, I appreciate you sharing that, you know, being open, keeping it 100. So are all the siblings based in Kansas City currently?
Man, it made me mad.
That's like that's a little too much information to ask.
No. The question's good. It's just that, you know, they know I hate it when they leave. You know, it ain't much of us. I don't have that much family. So the ones that I do have, I want to keep them here. But to answer your question, my little brother Jared is coaching in St. Louis, and he's teaching at a school, and my sister is in St. Louis with him, with my nephew. And my older brother is in Kansas City with me.
Nice. Man, that's powerful. Hey, see, look, at the beginning you were talking about, no, my story isn't much. But, you know, for me, again, you know, like I'm sure to you, you just look at you as you, and this is your story. But for me, you know, from my perspective, being an individual who grew up listening to you, you know, it's interesting to like hear the stories and understand what, again, like I just shared, like what pushes, what drove, what influenced the individual that, you know, you look up to and that you hear every day in the morning. You know what I'm saying? So,
and I appreciate you, brother. I really do. You should be a life coach because you know how to uplift people's spirits.
Hey, that's the goal. That's the goal. So looking back, you know, we just talked about, you know, you finding out about having a sister in your second year of college, but looking back to that age, you know, teenage Brian, 18, 19 years old, first, you know, year or two, like you mentioned, you were at Northwest. I have a two-part question. So first I want to ask you, where did that 18-year-old or 19-year-old Brian expect to be at 35 right now?
Man, you know what? It's interesting that you asked that because I think about that a lot. I think about 15 years ago when I went through the worst year of my life. I really did. I was at the bottom of the barrel in 2005, and I'll get to that in a second. But I thought it wasn't necessarily that I knew something was going to happen or that I thought something was going to happen. It was, my mindset was always, we got to work to make something happen. That was always my thing. And I knew I wanted to have, you know, stability. I knew I wanted to be in Kansas City. I never wanted to move from home. This is my home. I love it here. I like familiarity. So I just, home is where my heart is. That statement is so true with me. But you know, I figured that I would, you know, I would be okay, whether that was in radio or cutting hair or whatever. I knew I was gonna do something. So my thoughts was always, I got work to do. I got to work to make something happen. Um, but I'm thankful and I'm grateful. I truly am for where I am, and not that I'm like high or above or anything, but just know that you know, I ain't gotta ask nobody for nothing, you know.
Which is a
But
blessing, like which is
it
a
is,
blessing that passes our eyes too quick, but it's really a blessing.
man, yeah. Because after what I went through in '05, whoo, if you will be getting to that, I will, dog. But
Definitely, we are going to get into that. But the second part to that question though is from going from because from my research, you graduated from Northeast, correct?
Northeast High School, 2003, what's happening?
Hey, and quick question. Tell me a little bit about what Northeast was like from 2000 to 2003, because that school has gone through like quite a transition of different vibes throughout the year. So tell me about your high school experience real quick.
Man, look, going to Northeast, because at the time I was at Paseo. My freshman year, I went to Paseo, and they made me hate. I used to like to draw a lot. I'm a little creative with drawing and being creative like that. But they made me hate drawing, and I knew it. And that's nothing against Paseo, because it's for the real artists, and that's my point. If you're a real artist and you're into that, go to Paseo. They're gonna get you where you need to be. But that wasn't my path, and I discovered that by going to Paseo. So I needed to go to another school. Plus, they didn't have a football team. So I needed to go to a school that A, had a football team, and B, somewhere where I felt comfortable. And I didn't visit Northeast. I didn't know nothing about Northeast. I never really went past 12th Street, to be honest with you, a lot as a kid. We went sometimes, but not like a lot. We didn't frequent, you know, down north a lot. So going to Northeast was the best decision I ever made. I loved all 3 years that I went to Northeast. That school, I don't know, man. It's something near and dear to my heart. I love Northeast. I love my years there. I had so much fun. The different cultures that's at Northeast, I love that. I don't know, man. It was just a new experience, and I loved it. It was my favorite part of my adolescence by far. Northeast High School. Shout out to everybody who went to Northeast and who was up there with me, man. We had so much fun, man. Even our football team, we weren't good, but you know, football develops character, and just being a part of those teams and being a part of the locker room and the guys, man, it was a blast, man. I loved high school.
Who was do you remember who was the star athlete on your team your senior year? Think about your senior year. Who was the star
Me.
athlete? Hey, all right.
Nah, not me. Nah, it wasn't me. But man, really, it was probably it was probably Eric. It was probably him. He was our running back, number 32. Eric, that's my dog, Leezy Hawk. For those who know about him, Leezy Hawk. And then our quarterback, Jeff Harris, that was my dog. He was pretty good too. You know, the year before that, man, look, and really the basketball team was the stars at Northeast, to be honest with you. Like Martain Freeman, he went to Colorado. Who else? Boozy. He was a good basketball player. Lorenzo Dean, he was a hooper. So really, like, the basketball team, they was the men up in Northeast, man. But we held our own too.
Hey, that's all that matters. You would get the, like you said, you would get the experience of growth and character building, and then, man, like if there's any athletes right now in high school listening, please enjoy that experience.
Oh yeah, cherish it.
Please cherish it, because I promise you, like I never thought that I'd miss it, because you know I'm like, hey, this is what it is. When I'm done, I'm done, bruh.
I wasn't in a hurry to get out of high school. Like, first off, I knew I was going to more school in college. So I'm like, all right, I'm in school. I might as well, you know, whatever.
Right.
So I wasn't in a rush to graduate from high school. I mean, it was cool, but and a couple other guys. Shout out Pierre DeClue and shout out to K. Ron Parrish. They were some hoopers too. I didn't want to leave them out. I'm pretty sure there's some more I'm missing, but charge it to the brain and not the heart.
Blessings. So So talk about that transition from Northeast High School to Northwest. Talk about the transition from Kansas City to Maryville. Were there any huge adjustments that you had to make in regards to the culture there, or the vibe, or maybe just the studying? Who knows? Tell me a little bit about that.
Man, hell yeah. It was a major shift in everything, in every part of my life. You know, first off, I was on my own for the first time in my life, which I enjoy because I love being alone. Nothing against, you know, my relatives or nothing, but I'm a loner. I like being by myself. But besides that, you know, if you know about Northwest and in the demographics up there, it's probably only about 5 to 10% black people. And I'm used to being around black people. I am. I grew up black. I like black girls. I dated black girls. I went to black churches, ate black food. And don't get me wrong, I like all women, but those were the girls who I dated when I was in school, when I was younger, because that's who I was around. But yeah, you know, so it was a bunch of white folks up there. And I learned from them. It was a culture shock. They learned from me. I learned from them. So it was a pleasant gathering, but it was definitely a shock, a culture shock going up there. And as far as studying and the work and all of that I didn't have an issue with that. But I did have some rocky roads, which led to the worst year of my life. But it was a major adjustment, bro. It was a culture shock, just a totally different world from where I grew up in and what I had to deal with at Northeast.
Yeah, and I think I like the fact that you said, you know, they learn from you and you learn from them, because I just wanted to touch on a lot of the, you know, guests that I've had on here. Like I've had A Shyne, Royal Chief, just a few artists from around the city share their experiences in high school, and, you know, their parents moving them to a school in the suburbs, and but being used to like growing up in the city and being in the city, and the difference of culture and the challenges they faced, but also how it helped them learn how to move in certain spaces, which has helped them in the business space, when it comes to music, help them know how to, you know, communicate with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds. So I love that you shared that.
And you see that, I mean, interrupt, my bad, bro.
You're good. No, hey, you good.
I'm antsy to share. But if you look in America right now, or actually around the world, there are issues within corporate offices. There are issues on executive boards. There are issues with the decision makers who are all white. And this is no shade against white people, none. It's just, you know, the truth. But how are you a Fortune 500 company and you come out with a damn sweater with monkeys on it, and you have a black boy wearing the sweater with the monkey on it? How do you come out with a shirt that it was like a pullover or something? It was like a monkey pullover, and with blackface on it or something. So like, I think Gucci or something did that. I forgot who did it. I don't want to slander nobody, but like there are a lot of companies that have those issues, and the more culturally acceptable that you are of other, more accepting you are of other cultures, the more well-rounded you are culturally, the better off you're gonna be to try to celebrate other cultures and try to accept people for who they are. You know, that's just what I'm all about. You know, ain't no hate this way, man. You are who you are.
Thanks. And I think, like, another good point, which I think you were essentially making there, is just like the lack of representation on these executive boards, the lack of representation of people of color from brown and black backgrounds is the reason why that was able to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I mean, imagine if you ain't no brown or black individual on the board that's approving shirts that are going out, gonna approve that. Right. And that's just like one example. Obviously, there's so many other things, but
many like, of all races. Is so
straight up. Yeah, they do some disrespectful shit to a lot of different races because, you know, hopefully not intentionally. And I would assume that it's just because of a lack of education, because of ignorance in regards to what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what's disrespectful, what's not.
It just shows that they've been in their own world, and they haven't experienced other cultures. They haven't been in the room in the same. It's a lot of people who ain't been in the same room as Black people. It's a lot of people who hasn't been in the same room as Hispanic people. There's a lot of people who hasn't been in the same room with Asian people. And a lot of those people are making decisions for these companies. So to go back to the original point, you hit it right on the head. There's no representation, and the more culturally well-rounded you are, the better decisions you're going to make.
Straight up. So the next question kind of feeds into me going back to 2005, because the question was going to be any memorable moments from your time in college. And I know this is around 20, 21 years old. So if you're comfortable speaking on it, feel free.
So in 2005, in the spring, I knew I was about to get suspended from college because of my grades. I was slacking off. I wasn't going to class. I was just being lazy. It wasn't like, and it's pathetic because I wasn't even like going to parties. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't smoking. I wasn't doing none of that. I was just being a lazy ass dude, just not going to college and not doing the work, not going to class. So I knew I was about to get suspended, and now, you know, I was okay with it. I needed a break. I was kind of burnt out on school. So this is one of the last real conversations I had with my daddy. And I told him what the deal was. And I told him, look, you know, I'm about to get suspended. And, you know, he was like, you know, that's cool. That's all right or whatever. We're going to get you a job and, you know, we're going to bounce back. You're going to go back. And I'm like, yep, you're right. Like, let's go. And he told me that he was happy and he was proud of me for having that conversation with him and telling him the truth and being honest with him. So that always sticks out. But so we got a job. I got a job at a Home Depot off of 135th in Overland Park. And if you're familiar with Kansas City, you already know what it is around them parts. So I was working there throughout the summer. My mama needed her house painted, and Home Depot sells paint. So I'm like, hey, mama, you know, I got you. Come on through, you know. She did not want to do it at all. But I convinced her to do it. So she came through my line and, you know, rang it up, voided it, and she got the paint. So, and I am not a smooth criminal by any means. So I told them when my last day was, because I was going back up to Maryville. Now you ask yourself, Brian, why are you going back up to Maryville? You're not in school. Well, I had committed to my roommate in the middle of that semester about moving off campus with him into an apartment. You know, we had signed a lease, we had, you know, and everything. So I couldn't back out of that, or at least I felt I couldn't. So I told them I was going back up to Northwest, and I told them when my last day was. So this was a Tuesday in 2005. It was like August 22nd or 23rd or something. And I walk into Home Depot for my last day, and my manager says, hey, Brian, the GM is here. He wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, can we cuss? My bad.
Oh, yeah, you good.
All right. All right. So I say, oh, shit. I already know what it's about. I'm like, what do you want to talk about? She was like, who cares? It's your last day. Just go talk to him. I'm like, oh, man. So I go in the back, and it's the GM and the lady from the loss and prevention department. And the conversation started out nice. Like, she was like, hey, how you doing? Hey, Brian, I hear you going back to school. What you majoring in? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, come on, bro. Like, let's just get to it, dog. And eventually the conversation slowly started to turn mean. And who is this in this picture? And why did you do this? And it was a picture of my mama. And I'm like, oh, man, look, I ain't never been so humiliated in my life. I felt that I've never felt worse than at that moment when this lady had this picture up of my mama. So they told me to write a statement, and I write the statement. In the middle of me doing that, here comes the police. I said, man, y'all gonna arrest me for this shit? You have the right to remain silent, blah, 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 blah. So I get walked out of Home Depot in handcuffs, and I go to jail. Well, I was only in the holding cell. So, but I was in the holding cell for like 5-6 hours or something, waiting on my daddy to come get me. So not only am I kicked out of school now, but I got something on my record. Now eventually I would get diversion, which is another form of probation, and they wipe it off your record after you're done with it. But that took a whole year to do, and I had to go to classes, and I had to take urine tests, and they had to do the samples and all that other stuff. Right. So I had to do that, and I had to come back to Kansas City monthly for that. So I go back up to school, no job, no school. I have maybe $500-$600 in rent is due. So when my plan was to just work. That was my plan, just to get a job and work that semester until I can apply to get back into school for the spring semester. But I applied everywhere. I applied to McDonald's, Walmart, Subway, Sonic, Burger King. I applied everywhere in Maryville. Nobody would touch me and I assume because of, what I did at Home Depot. And I was fresh off of that, that it wasn't even a month, but I applied for 2 months for jobs, but I couldn't get anything. So let's fast forward to like November. I'm dead broke. Every day I'm eating fish sticks and water. I spent like my last $10 on a gigantic bag of fish sticks because I knew that could last, for some time until I can buy my way into something else. But I spent my last piece of money on those fish sticks, and I was eating that and drinking water. I probably lost about 30 pounds and that's in those couple months. But I'm dead broke. I'm waking up every day and I'm just watching TV. I'm at the crib. That's it. I'm 2 months behind on rent now. And here comes February and January. Now I applied to get back into school in December, and I got back in. But now since I couldn't get a job, my plan was to use the extra money that I would get from the financial aid and all that and use that for the rent or whatever. But I'm running out of time because, rent is due and these bills need to be paid. But by the grace of God, I was able to get extended until like January or February, and that's when the financial aid checks come, and eventually all that got resolved. I'm back in school and my grades are pretty good now. And I like to say this too, because the guy who I talked to when I applied back at school, his name is Fred Lamer at Northwest Missouri State. Those who are in broadcasting that go to Northwest Missouri State, that name, Fred Lamer. And he pulled me to the side and he said, look, cut the bullshit. If you with me, I'm gonna make sure that you graduate, okay? So I went with him. He kept his promise. He stayed on me, and eventually I would graduate because of him. And I just wanted to say that to Fred Lamer. He changed my life, and I thank him so much for that. But so now we're in, let's fast forward to spring of 2006 now. I'm in school, caught up on bills, and everything is good on that end. So now I'm like, the year before in 2005, I actually applied one time for an internship at 103, but I didn't get a response. But I only called one time and sent one email. And I applied to some other stations as well. But this year in 2006, in the spring of 2006, I wouldn't take a no for an answer. I called at least 5-6 times. I left 5 or 6 voicemails. I sent about 10 emails until I got a reply. And if you know me personally, you know that is not my style. I hate asking people for stuff, and I hate bugging people. That I hate it. I detest it. I cannot stand it. So I got a reply though, and I got an interview. I got an interview in 103, and eventually I got the internship. So everything is okay now. But now I'm back home. And then I'm doing my internship at a station. This is my first week. I started on that Monday. And then on a Friday, It's me, my older brother John, and my daddy, and we're downstairs playing PlayStation, playing Madden like we always do every Friday night. And on this particular Friday night, though, my little brother Jared wasn't there, which was odd because he's always there with us, playing PlayStation and, you know, just kicking it with my daddy. And so I get on the phone to talk to my girlfriend, and I go upstairs. As I'm going upstairs, my daddy stops me like, you ain't gonna stay down here with us tonight because Jared ain't here, huh? And I kind of looked at him, gave him one of them, and went on upstairs. Probably about 30 minutes later, as I'm listening to the radio, talking to my girlfriend at the time, I hear my older brother scream my name. And I'm on the phone, I'm thinking, oh, they playing Madden or whatever. He called my name again. Like, he screamed it like this is a bloody murder scream. And I'm like, all right, I'll call you back. I gotta go downstairs. So I go downstairs and I see my daddy. He's passed out on the couch. And I try to revive him, give him mouth to mouth. I tried to, do CPR, but my daddy was gone. I knew it. So, call the ambulance or whatever, and they put him on a breathing machine. But, the toughest phone call I ever had to make was to my little brother, Jared, to explain to him, what was going on. So after I called the police, I called Jared, told him that, and, we all went to the hospital, me and my older brother. My second mama drove Jared up to the hospital. My mama is distraught. She's at home. And my daddy was staying with us at the time, with me and my mom and my older brother. But so, we go into that room and wait for the doctors to come tell us something. And doctor came in and told us he was gone. And you didn't hear nothing but screams. And, I tried to keep my cool, of course. I put my head down and, I just like to preserve myself. I don't like to show that type of emotion in front of people. But my little brother Jared, he swung at the wall, and John is crying. And one of the worst days of my life, May 27, 2006. I ain't gonna ever forget it. That's when my daddy passed away. And that really, that was the end point to really the worst year of my life. From that summer of 2005 to May 27, 2006 was just, it really tested me. It did. And everybody got to go through that. And I'm not the only one who goes through that. Everybody has their own trials. Everybody has their own story. And that's mine. And that, everything, kind of got better from there, but I didn't have my daddy here to celebrate. Even though he's with me in spirit, I still talk to him every day, spiritually. But that was tough. It was tough.
Absolutely. I feel like one of the most emotional and challenging things that any human being can ever go through is the loss of a parent, and especially in that way. And, as you mentioned, lots of individuals are going to go through their different trials and tribulations, but it doesn't take away from the pain of certain experiences that individuals experience. So first and foremost, want to extend my condolences.
Appreciate it.
What was your father's name?
John Brooks.
Just want to say rest in peace to John Brooks. So first off, this podcast has been great. Again, it goes back to me. It goes back to me just, being, a fan, a supporter, and then also for the individuals who listen to this podcast who also grew up with you, being able to hear, your story, I think is not only inspirational from what you've shared so far, especially, I think, for the people listening today, it's important to realize that every individual that you look up to in life, every individual that, you can be like, everyone's gone through this experience where we do our best to not compare ourselves to each other, but we've been in the car and we're just having a bad day or a bad week. And we see, modern day times, we see Jay-Z, at his party looking fly with $1 million suit on. And we're like, man, why can't I be there? Or like, oh, he's lucky. You know what I'm saying? Or we hear people, on the radio, living this life, blah blah blah, you know.
Right.
But the most important thing for you guys to realize is that everyone has gone through their challenges. Everyone has that moment. Everyone has that year. Everyone has that month, that day. Um, but it's kind of like that cliche saying, every rainy day there's a sun nearby. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that 2005, 2006 year for you is definitely, I don't know if you'd agree, but from what I'm hearing, is definitely a catalyst that pushed you even further forward for the rest of your life and up to now. So
It did, man. It made me grow up fast. It did. Because Jared was only 16 at the time. I was 20, going on 21. And then my sister, the weird thing about that, my sister didn't even know my daddy for 2 years fully, almost 2 years. But I'm glad that they got to cross paths before my daddy made his transition. So, but it was definitely a catalyst though for better things.
And what is 1 to 3 things, however many you want to share, like it can be a character trait, it can be a mindset, it can be anything. What are some things that your father shared with you that you hold on to this very day that helped you get to where you're at and are just a part of your day-to-day mindset?
The number one thing is being realistic with myself. Because of the whole reason I got into broadcasting is because of him. Because we were sitting down one day, I was in the 9th grade, I was at Paseo, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew drawing wasn't it, because they made me hate drawing. And if you love something, you're never going to hate it as far as an activity or, what you want to do. So I was like, man, he was like, what you want to do? We about to go to college or whatever. And I was like, man, I want to say something cool to impress him or whatever. So I want to be a lawyer. It's like, Brian, you don't like to read. That's not your strong suit. I mean, I can read, but I'm not a fan of it though,
Reading law books for 6 hours probably is my deal.
Man, lawyers read. They read everything. And they read a lot. And he knew that I wasn't going to enjoy that. That was his point he was making. So he was like, that ain't it. What do you really like to do? What do you want to do? I was like, I want to be a stockbroker. He's like, Brian, you watch TV a lot and you listen to the radio a lot. Why not broadcasting? And it was like a light clicked in my head because I knew that was perfect for what I wanted to do. Because I used to turn down football games and kind of broadcast them myself. That was just something that I just like to do. And me and my daddy, we would like kind of read stuff sometimes to each other just to kind of test each other and, just kind of what we did. It was kind of our own thing. So he knew that I had an interest in that. And from that point on, I pursued it. I did. Of course, I was still playing football, and I thought, I'm going to the NFL.
Right.
But when I knew that wasn't right, but, because football is my first love. I still love it, as you can tell, from the display behind me.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the video, if you're not watching the video at home right now, if you're not watching this on YouTube right now, he has a extended wall all over the place. We just see
Right.
Chiefs.
Royals, Lakers. What's up, baby?
And representation is happening.
Yeah. But so he knew I love broadcasting. And I pursued it. And shout out to my counselor, Miss Fisher at Northeast. She was a big influence on me too because she helped me develop a broadcasting club at school for extracurricular activities, which eventually turned into an actual class my senior year of high school. So shout out to Miss Fisher. I thank her. Man, she changed my life too. So but yeah, being realistic though, going back to the things that stuck with me with him, being realistic with yourself and knowing what you want to do and what you can deal with and all of that, because some people, they live in the clouds, and I just never been a fan of that. Everybody got their own thing and you do what you want to do, but for Brian, that don't work for me at all. I don't know, that everything else is kind of under that overshadows everything else that he really taught me. Just being realistic, I think, really kind of helped me and molded my personality.
Yeah, which is important. It's the ability to self-assess. is what that reminds me of. And individuals who have the inability to self-assess often find themselves struggling for year after year, whether it comes to, what career or what they're good at or what they're
Exactly.
talented at or their relationships, whatever it is. When you are unable to self-assess and be honest with self, and just give yourself a little reality check and understand the importance of a reality check, then you're gonna find yourself lost for way too long. So
Big
I think
thing.
that's powerful. I also want to point out, listeners, take heed that there's going to be people in your life that push you forward. There's going to be people in your life that are, hate to use this word 4 times in a row, but are a catalyst for your growth. If you've been listening clearly the whole time, Brian's mentioned an individual, I forgot his name already, but from Northwest with the journalist program.
Fred Lamer.
Yes, Fred Lamer, that assisted him and told him, lock in, cut the shit. If you with me, then ride. Let's ride and let's go.
And
And
and I really respond to that. I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad.
no, that's important to share. Straight up.
I respond to that, and that's another reason why I love football so much, and I recommend football for young boys. And I know it ain't for everybody, and I get it, but for those who are mildly interested in it or who want to do it, do it. Football taught me so many character things, being around teammates, the camaraderie, taking coaching. Everybody can't take coaching. And I'm not even talking about just strategy in football. I'm talking about coaching in life, taking advice from those who are wiser than you, those who've been where you trying to go. All of that stuff to me is you can live your life by some of the principles that you learn in football, in my opinion, because it definitely worked for me. It did, man. Especially taking coaching. Football really taught me to listen to people and listen to those who can look at your life from an aerial view. A lot of times we tunnel vision and we seeing what we seeing. But if you got a person from above who's actually like watching what you're doing from their perspective, from another perspective, and they can kind of like, look, man, instead of doing it this way, why don't you do it this way? All of that applies to life to me, taking coaching and taking advice from somebody.
And that's major. That's major. I just want to say, if you look at any great athlete, and I'm sure this goes to any great businessman too, but any great athlete, Muhammad Ali had one of the best boxing coaches. Mike Tyson, one of the best boxing coaches. Kobe and Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson. When we look at any of the top performers in any space, whether it's business, sport, radio, everyone has somebody that assisted, that was a coach. Nobody does it by themselves because, like you were sharing, we're so tunnel vision, we don't have our little personal drum, and a coach is like your own personal drum. So I thank you for sharing that, man. It's powerful. I want to jump into a little bit about 103 before we wrap it up. So you talked about your internship. You secure the internship. Give us a little bit of the timeline at 103, and then just cover what positions you've held and what responsibilities you've had over the years there.
So my internship was from 06 until I got hired, basically, because I want to, when I do something, man, I do it all the way. You know what I'm saying? If I'm down with something, I'm loyal to it. You're gonna give my all. That's just the way that I'm built. And when I'm invested, I'm invested. So I try to stick around as much as possible when when I went back to school and there was a winter vacation, or if it was the holidays or something, I would always see if they needed help. And of course they always, radio stations always need help with something, either promotions or traffic or whatever. So I always try to keep my foot in the building at all times to make my presence known at all times, and at the time we had Tony G, Sean Tyler, JT Quick, Diane Devereaux. It was a long list of people, who I was, trying to be like and trying to aspire to be and trying to be in that circle. But fast forward to 2007, the summer of 07, and I'm trying to come back for another internship, but by the grace of God and Myron Fears and Andre Carson, I got hired. So, and I got hired on June 13th, 2007. And you said the positions I've had. Just I've been involved with my first thing was just running the board, trying to figure out the board, trying to be a board op. And of course, when you do that, you got to work on 1590 too, which is the gospel station. So over there, I ain't changed my name though. I'm still, it's burning, shining over there too. The Lord shines the light, right? So there you go. So I've been, of course, Underground Heat, been involved with that. Used to run the board for the Steve Harvey Morning Show, the Night Jam, Friday Night Mixtape, which I'm still doing, and I love doing Friday Night Mixtape, and of course the Morning Grind with Shay and Shyne, which is the big dog. Shout out to my sister Shay Moore, who is the big sister who I never knew I needed until I met her, and she's special, man. She's another one who's really changed my life around, really.
Man. Powerful, man. Mentor. I think that's just something we keep coming back to, the importance of humans, man.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, obviously it has to be specific humans, because there's obviously humans that step in and do bad as well. But the importance of needing each other, it takes a lot of selflessness to understand the power of interdependence, on each other. So
Shay gets on me a lot about that too, because I am one of those folks. And I agree with everything you said, because we are important to each other, but a lot of times I'm just, man, I'm hesitant to reach out for help. I am, man. I don't like being a pest to anybody. I don't, and I'm still growing in that aspect. I'm not perfect at all, but Shay always tells me, everybody needs everybody, and I can see that a lot of times, and it's true. But her. Man, she's somebody who I definitely needed, who I didn't know I needed until we linked up.
Straight up. That's powerful. Can you talk a little bit about how important Myron Fears is to you, and how he helped you out?
Man, Myron is I look at him as a father figure, to be honest. Father figure, big brother, however you want to put it. Myron has really helped me out immensely, professionally and personally. And not only is Myron important to me, but he's important to our radio station. He is important to this city. Myron has done so many things, so many weddings, so many events, as far as DJing and speaking and giving his time and all of that stuff. And he's so knowledgeable, man. Myron is one of the smartest dudes who I know. Myron is brilliant. And he's a great strategist too, whether it be radio or whether it be politics or sports. Myron he's great, man. He's an all-time great person. He's a great human being. He's a great coach. He's a great strategist. Love Myron to death, man. He's so vital to my life and to many others, man, to be honest with you. He's the best.
Man. You know what I love most about you so far, Brian, being able to interact, on a one-to-one spaces, is your willingness to admire other individuals, to show love to other people. Yeah. It's powerful.
Man, bro, look, these people who I named, Fred Lamer, Miss Fisher from Northeast, Shay Moore, Myron Fears, my daddy, my older brother, everybody who I've came across, I am an example, dog, of it takes a village to raise a child. I am proof of that, because it took a collaborative effort, and everybody has this in their life. You just got to pay attention to the signs. You got to pay attention to those who are around you, who's trying to help guide you. They're not trying to tell you what to do, because some people can take it wrong. Some people take it the wrong way. But my attitude was always, okay, let me learn something from them. They've been where I'm trying to go, or they're older than my daddy. And I got that from my daddy. My daddy always told me to, you know, he was always saying treat elders with respect and listen to elders and stuff. And a lot of people say that, but my daddy was very specific with that. Even he said a bum on the street can tell you something that you don't know because he's older than you. And he told me that when I was a kid. So I'm always trying to pay attention. I'm always trying to learn some little nugget from somebody who's definitely older than me or have more experience than I do. And I'm all about showing love and paying homage to whoever has helped me and who's ever had a hand in my life and me becoming a man. I'm never hesitant to show love to anybody who's ever done that.
Hey, blessings. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys have been enjoying this podcast. I'm going to ask our guest here one final question, two final questions, but one of them's quick. And we'll wrap it up here, man. Again, thank you so much for dedicating this time. I know I told you 45 minutes. We're at like an hour and 10.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. We can do a part 2. I don't, you know, it don't matter. I appreciate you for just having me, dog. I really do. I'm honored.
Hey, man. Thank you. So the final 2 questions, brother. If you were to leave 2 to 3 pieces of advice for someone who wants to be in the same place as you, obviously in their own way, but wants to be in radio, wants to be, a radio personality, a figure, that represents their community well and provides not only information like Hot 103 does. We're hearing about voting, we're being pushed to vote, we are hearing about updates in regards to COVID, we're hearing about lots of things. Everyone that's listened to it all through their life knows that you learn things from from listening. So yeah, just a piece of advice for somebody who wants to end up in that same seat as you.
I think the number one thing is versatility, or not the number one thing, but that's one of the top things that come off my head. Being versatile. When I say that, I mean knowing music, knowing about the community, and not only that, knowing about politics, knowing about what's going on, reading the room. You know what I'm saying? Not only do you need to be versatile with your knowledge, but you need to be versatile with your skill set. Learn how to write. Of course, you got to know how to talk and read and do that properly. But learn how to produce. Learn how to make drops. Learn how to make music beds. If you make beats, I used to make beats, and I still use some of the beats on 103.
Lit.
Yeah, that was a couple years of my life. But be versatile. Learn as much as possible. Develop multiple skill sets. People say have multiple streams of income. Have multiple skill sets. It'll go a long way for you, and it will increase your value so much. Okay, so and that can go not only with radio but with any industry, because a lot of companies, they always trying to look after the bottom line and save money, and sometimes some jobs they combine. So if you're a writer before and you didn't know how to produce, but there is a producer who knows how to write, well, guess who they're gonna pick? The producer who knows how to write, because they're versatile. So I say that to just be versatile at all times, with whatever industry that you're gonna be in. The second thing is the point that we just made, that we just talked about, is about listening. A lot of people screw themselves over because they talk first and then they listen. And a wise man told me, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. To listen first, then talk. Because and then sometimes, depending on who you're talking to, it can be offensive. The way that you come off, over talking people or thinking that you know everything or whatever. Half of this game is about relationships, and that's with anything too. That can apply with anything. It really is not about what you know, but who you know too. All right. So make the right connections, network, and always listen before you talk. A lot of people screw themselves right out of the gate because they like to talk before they listen.
2 powerful pieces of advice for you. Please take what he just said into consideration, because those are actually exactly what I would say too. And not in radio, but hey, podcasting, personal training, hey, whatever it is, that's powerful. And
what I look like telling a personal trainer what I'm gonna do and what I'm not finna do. What I look like doing that? Come on, man. Let's not be ridiculous.
Hey. So we have a question that came in on IG questions. Posted a little something before the interview. So this question's from Scatterbrain. Dope person on IG. She's a dope individual. But she said, if DJing were to cease, what would you do?
Man, that's a good question. I think about that all the time. And honestly, to be 100% honest with you, I think I will move towards two things. One of two things. Either being a barber. I've thought about that because I can cut hair. I used to cut my brother's hair all the time. And it turned, I'm very critical of myself, but they have some cool little haircuts. But the other thing that I would do, I would probably immerse myself into football and try to work for the Chiefs or something. I might pursue coaching. I'm not sure. I really didn't have a plan B, and I'm a plan B guy. I like to have a plan B at all times just to make sure that I got something to protect myself. But I was full forced. I was full steam ahead with the radio thing. When I went to college, I was like, I'm either doing this or whatever. Let the chips fall where they may.
The cool thing is to me, whether you do this or not, is the way you set up your life, especially in Kansas City, in regards to what you do, and in regards to your representation in the community, and in regards to your love for the game of football. Working for the Chiefs could actually be a thing, you know what I'm saying? At 50, 55, something like that, you still living good, still living right, still got the clean beard lined up. You might be on national TV.
Man, look, I would really probably not even if it ain't working for the Chiefs, it would be pursuing a broadcasting career in football, like being a color commentator or play-by-play man, because I did that in college and I loved it. I absolutely love broadcasting football and basketball games. Those were so fun to do. But yeah, that's probably what I would lean towards too.
Love it. With that being said, Brian B Shynin, Kansas City's favorite son, dropped into the Culture Talks, shared love, inspiration, his story. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. I know you enjoyed this. If you're from Kansas City, you definitely enjoyed this. And as it goes from the 816 to the 913, the Culture Talks, Brian B Shynin, thank you guys for tapping in. Is there anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to say before we hop off?
Just I want to shout out you, my brother. I appreciate you. I don't know you. We just met on Instagram, but I already got love for you, dog. I'm so honored and I'm so blessed to participate in this and be here with you. I appreciate it. But honestly, I just wanted to shout out everybody in Kansas City, and everybody, this is no shade to nobody else, but everybody Black in Kansas City, because we got some work to do. We got to love each other. We got to love upon our communities. We got to help build our communities. We got to uplift each other. We got to stop all of this violence. It has to stop. And I'm not saying that's exclusive to Black people. That's exclusive to everybody. All right. But I just want to show love to my brothers and sisters out there, man. Kansas City is the town. I love my city. I would do anything for my city. And I wouldn't want to be nowhere else, man. Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. I love y'all.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The Culture Talks. This is CIZZY. Salud.